Hello and welcome to Unexplained Arkansas. This is Amber.
This is Lisa.
Good grief. This is episode 52 and the second episode in our special series on the Crescent Hotel.
Trilogy.
Yes, it's a trilogy. There's 3 of them. So what are we going to do when we discover so much new stuff next week at the Crescent that we want to make it into a 4-parter? And you've already called it a trilogy. Because once you go trilogy, you can't go back.
We'll just make it a long episode.
Oh, okay. All right, that works for me.
Okay.
Okay, so we discovered some really cool things in the last episode, and if you're just joining us, you can go back to episode 51, the Crescent Hotel, and now today in this episode we're picking up where Lisa left off in the 1930s, and I'm going to talk primarily about Dr. Norman Baker. Dun, dun, dun.
You're going to say Norman Bates.
Norman Bates. He was
dun, dun.
he was as crazy as Norman Bates. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's where they got the name Norman Bates. I don't know.
Maybe.
It could be. Who knows? But yeah, so Norman Baker is primarily who we'll talk about today. And get this, he was only at the Crescent from 1937 to 1939. So it was a very short period of time, but so much happened. And we'll get into that. So are you ready? Oh, first we have Patreon, right?
Patronies. No.
She keeps saying Patronus. Okay, so our Patreons for this week, we have Renee O, Jan G, Lindsay M, Chrissy T, and Rita O.
Woo woo!
Yes, yay. Thank you, guys. We do have a special Patreon party. I'm going to call it True Crime Party. I don't know. We have a true crime discussion that we will be doing tomorrow night, Sunday night, and it'll be with our Patreon people.
Oh, but they won't know because I'm not releasing this one. That just hit me.
Yeah, well. We had it last night, and it was great. Yes. Yes, it was great. But we did have a book club for like 5 seconds and then realized that our group really does better when we're chatting about current events and true crime things. So that's what we kind of switched it to.
I think we're going to go back to the book.
Are we going back to the book?
I think we're leaving it open.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We have a lot of book readers.
We do have a lot of book readers. That's true. Mm-hmm. Maybe I just don't want to read the book.
You don't.
Well, because I mostly read nonfiction books. Yeah. And so fiction that's not my vibe. So I have a hard time getting through that.
I'm excited for a couple of nonfiction books coming out. So I'll plug them when they come out in October.
Yeah. Oh, I'm reading one right now, and I'll plug it later in a different episode as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started before our banter overtakes us today. My story, actually, like I said, I'm going to pick up where Lisa left off, but I have a flash forward first. So mine actually starts in 2019. So in February 2019, a landscaper at the historic Crescent Hotel uncovered a trove of hundreds of bottles while excavating a hidden dump site on the property. This was an amazing discovery that ended up providing new clues to a long-standing mystery. And Lisa, do you know what that mystery was?
I just know what he found, so.
Yeah. Well, the unearthed bottles were later found to contain mysterious chemical concoctions and medical specimens, which ended up being remnants of the Crescent Hotel's past life as a cancer curable hospital that was run by somebody that you could label a charlatan, Norman Baker, in the early 20th century.
I thought you were going to say Charlotte. I was like, what?
No, charlatan. This led to a formal archaeological investigation by U of A, actually. Yeah, I know. My alma mater, University of Arkansas, that's where I got my bachelor's degree. But they had a full-on investigation, full-on dig that shed some further light on the hotel's dark and secretive past. So that brings us, that's our flash forward.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, exactly. So now we're going to go back to where Lisa left, which was the 1930s.
1937.
Yes. So this is the events that transpired at the Baker Hospital in Eureka Springs from 1937 to 1939. And although they are shrouded in mystery still, there's a lot of things that we do know now, not just because of this archaeological discovery, but also we have a lot of information from ancestry, from death records, from things such as that we'll get into during this episode. So there's also, some paranormal things that, people relate back to these Baker years. And there have been countless investigations over the years, and those have inspired books, reports, things like that. Okay, so let's just get started with Mr. Baker. I'm not going to call him Dr. Baker because he's not really a doctor. I think he only called himself that. So according to the Encyclopedia of Arkansas, Norman Baker was born on November 27th, 1882 in Muscatine, Iowa. He was the 10th and last child of John and Frances Baker. His father reportedly held 126 patents and operated the Baker Manufacturing Company in Muscatine. I keep wanting to say muscadine jelly.
I love muscadine jelly.
Yeah. Prior to her marriage, Baker's mother had written extensively. So he came from someone who was kind of sort of a manufacturer and inventor, and then someone who was a writer. And they had a charlatan, apparently. Yes. Okay. So after leaving high school during his sophomore year, so Baker did not finish high school. Yes. So Baker's early adult years were spent working as a machinist. And then one day he saw this vaudeville magician act, and it changed his life. It was a mentalist act. And I will tell you, reading about these vaudeville acts and these traveling acts that, went all over the country in the early 1900s, I would love to do an episode on that and see what kind of shows ran through Arkansas.
Yeah.
That might,
several.
Yeah, and that might take some digging, but I think that would be a really interesting episode, and I don't really think anyone's done that yet. But there have been traveling shows and things that went through Arkansas.
And I would probably hate them. I hate magic
Okay,
shows.
well, then you're going to love this.
Okay.
Because he was inspired by these vaudeville magician acts. And so he organized his own little traveling troupe of magicians and mind readers. His main mind reader was Madame Pearl Tangley.
Pearl Tangley?
Yeah, well, Tangley. Like it's spelled, my family name is Langley, and it's spelled like that only with a T. It's a Tangley. Yes,
Tangley.
yes.
Oh, weird.
So, and Baker reportedly married one of Madame Tangley's actresses, but the marriage was later annulled.
Oh.
Yes.
Annulled?
It was annulled. I
Does it
don't
say
know
why?
why. No, but I could probably find that on Ancestry.
That's interesting.
It is. So watching this traveling mentalist show proved a life-changing experience for Norman. Inspired, he assembled all these performers, and he did this big Midwestern tour and just captivated audience apparently with his illusions and his hypnotist acts. So he was also a hypnotist. Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Sorry.
I mean, it all
He
kind
was a jack of all trades.
Yeah, but it all kind of vibes, with everything that Norman Baker is accused of. And then to say, oh, yeah, and by the way, he was an illusionist and a hypnotist as well.
Well, it definitely vibes with being a charlatan.
Yes, yes. Or yes, it does. Within a few years, his troupe secured a lucrative theater contract on the vaudeville circuit. Then after touring, and he, of course, his marriage that he had fell apart, he returned to his work as an inventor and machinist. And most notably at that point, he patented a type of colophone or a portable steam organ. So he invented an instrument.
Oh, that's interesting. Does it say if he was a musician?
I don't think so. Maybe he thought he was a musician, like he thought he was a doctor. Yeah.
But he didn't finish high school.
Yes. So concurrently, Baker maintained a mail-order business, correspondence art school, so he was an artist too, and other entrepreneurial ventures that generated substantial wealth. The caliphone, and I'm probably, not saying that instrument right, but caliphone is how it looks. That earned him $200,000, which is, the equivalent back then of about $3 million today.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was a very rich man very quickly.
Wow.
Yes. Now, of course, he had toured with Madame Tangley for 10 years.
I like how you said that, Tangley.
Yes. But he never used the same woman to play Madame Tangley. He kept finding a new woman. So I think I want to be Madame Tangley.
She wasn't a real person?
It was
just a
he
character?
would stick a new woman in there to be Madame Tangley.
So it was just a character.
It was an act. It was an act. And he would go from place to place and hypnotize people. And I guess Madame Tangley would go out there and read their, read fortunes, tell fortunes, whatever. So it sounds really interesting.
That is interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So the portable organ was his next venture after vaudeville. Mm-hmm. And the art school, all that made him a very rich man. So by 1929, Baker got a little big for his britches, so to speak, because he started doing things like denouncing the American Medical Association.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
He was very quickly becoming someone that people started listening to. And, I don't know, I have no idea what his voice sounds like or what one of his talks sound like, but he got people to believe him. And, it seems like he had this ability throughout his career. So by 1929, he had weed off the American Medical Association because he claimed he had a cure for cancer, which we know is no go. We still unfortunately don't, but he definitely didn't have that in 1929. Wow. But he told people that he did. So despite lacking any medical training, again, he went to his sophomore year in high school, he organized a 100-bed institute in Muscatine. And if I am saying that wrong, if you're from Muscatine, Iowa, let me know.
So he was hanging out in Iowa.
He was at this time. So staffing it was called the Baker Institute of Muscatine, and staffing it primarily were chiropractors, osteopaths, and physicians from diploma mills. Now, do you know what diploma mills are?
It sounds like they just give you a diploma for just doing
paying money. Yes,
wow.
Yes. Harry Hoxsey, a later proponent of unapproved cancer treatments, worked at the institute for a time. Now, he also promoted various pseudo-scientific health claims, many of which, some of them still persist today, such as the notion that water with fluoride is bad for you and aluminum cookware is toxic, that vaccines are useless, and that businesses and the government are conspiring to conceal truth.
Well,
so he could be running a podcast today.
Yes,
if Baker was alive today, he would definitely have his own podcast. Yes. So he attacked a wide range of targets, including the aluminum cookware people and, the government. Everybody. One big issue he had was bovine tuberculosis testing. That's where you test your cattle for TB.
Okay.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yes. So, according to an article by the New Yorker, in the years before promoting his purported cancer cure, he began to try to launch some other money-making ventures. And one of those was a radio station.
Oh.
And he launched that in 1925 in Iowa.
Okay.
And he broadcast this across the Midwest, and it was called, like I said, KTNT, or if I didn't say it, that's what it was called, KTNT. And it gave Baker a powerful platform to promote his cures, slander his enemies, and just basically say whatever the heck he wanted to. And he did. Also, according to Medium, during a Midwest outbreak of bovine tuberculosis, he had an anti-vaccination tirade on his radio program, and it ended up being called the Cow War. So, yes, I've got
like scary heifer.
Yes, I have so many thoughts on the Cow War, the Great Cow War. No, I'm kidding. He falsely claimed
Iowa.
Yes. He falsely claimed the newly mandated cattle TB testing was a conspiracy by veterinarians to try to steal and sell healthy livestock by intentionally falsifying positive test results. Yes.
Okay.
Very true. That deserves an episode on its own.
Okay.
If we were Unexplained Iowa. Yes.
We might be someday.
Someday. Through intimidation and violence, the ranchers, some of them, not all of them, so if your great-great-grandpa was part of this, I'm sorry, but some of the ranchers were really mean about this. They totally believed Baker, and they would run veterinarians out of town.
Oh, no.
Yes. It was awful. So the Great Cow War, it was actually just called the Cow War. I don't know why I keep putting
The Great Cow War.
The Cow War only ended when the governor of Iowa deployed the state militia.
Oh my
This
goodness.
is according to Medium. Yes.
Did they run him off?
I don't know. So he did start having some problems.
Oh, did
So yes, after that, so he saw Mexico as a solution to those problems. Dr. John Brinkley, who was known for transplanting goat glands into male patients, had already opened a radio station at Villa Acuna, just across the border from Del Rio, Texas. Baker then located at Nuevo Laredo and opened XENT, a 100,000 watt transmitter. In 1933, he continued to market his cancer cures, and in 1936, unsuccessfully campaigned for a U.S. Senate seat in Iowa.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I mean, he was busy.
Spill my drink. He was a busy boy.
I mean,
doing all kinds of things.
It sounds like just one of those people that, like, if they had used their knowledge for good instead, anyway.
Yeah.
He just.
He lived a lot of lives before he got to the hotel. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so that same year, a ghost-written biography titled Doctors, Dynamiters, and Gunmen, The Life Story of Norman Baker was published. In 1937, Baker was then convicted in federal court for violating the Brinkley Clause of the 1934 Federal Communications Act by broadcasting recorded content from outside the country.
Ooh.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, the plot thickens.
It does.
Yes. But that conviction was later overturned.
Oh.
So despite all of this going on...
Could have saved some lives.
Yes. Despite this, a number of Arkansas performers, including Fiddlin' Bob Larkin and his music makers...
Did you say fiddlin'?
Fiddlin' Bob Larkin and his music makers performed directly in the studio owned by Baker. Okay. So not everybody hated him. Just smart people. No, I'm kidding. I'm just joking. I don't know.
Not those darn fiddlers.
Bob was probably smart too. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Bob.
Sorry, Bob and his descendants. Fiddlin' Bob. All right. So the year... Fiddlin' Descendants. Okay. The year was 1937.
Okay.
That's where we're at right now. Okay. We were in deep in this depression, right? Arkansas was hit so hard. And, I know this intimately because my grandparents that raised me were Depression era children, and I heard endlessly about it when I was growing up. And that's why we saved everything. That's why when Lisa came over in high school, she ate beans and cornbread. because we had money for things, but they saved everything. They were, but that was the mindset of people in that time period. It was hard.
Yeah.
So my grandparents at this time would have been about 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the year was 1937, deep in the throes of the Great Depression. Eureka Springs, heavily reliant on tourism, was hit particularly hard during this economic downturn. And, if a place is basing their money on tourism and no one has
Great Depression.
exactly, and no one has any money for tourism, right? I mean, look what happened to us after the pandemic during the pandemic. Nobody was going anywhere. So these places that relied on tourism, they were losing money, they were losing businesses. So yeah,
a lot of restaurants didn't make it. A lot of it took its toll.
Yeah. So Baker, being Baker, recognized this as an opportunity. So he went to Eureka, found the Crescent, and purchased it for...
How much? I'm going to die.
You are. $40,000.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, which,
Can
okay.
you imagine?
But let me tell you, that's the equivalent of $748,000 today. But still,
it cost $297,000 when it was built.
Yeah. So he got it for a song.
Yeah,
yes.
It's huge.
It is. So Baker envisioned transforming the property into a radio station, pharmacy, and sanitarium. Now, I know that's a weird combo.
But I'm just imagining, I'm sorry, like, it's just funny to me that everything is like radio station. Had he just stuck with that.
Yeah.
And not, like, get involved with medicine when with his high school, not even high school education.
Yes. Well, he really thought he had something. I mean, he really thought that this was it. And he made good on the promise that he was going to turn it into a very popular location, for a couple of years. Yeah. So to entice visitors, he promised the Chamber of Commerce of Eureka an aggressive national marketing campaign for his new hospital, all but guaranteeing a steady influx of more tourists and those much needed tourism dollars. And the Chamber welcomed Baker with open arms because they were broke, right? And they even hosted this lavish dinner for Baker when he came to town, where the mayor was the MC.
Oh my!
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So not everyone, however, was enamored with Baker. One state representative actively lobbied for a congressional investigation into the veracity of Baker's claims, though the effort failed to gain traction, and he didn't have anybody.
So whoever this person was very smart.
Was very smart. That was a very smart person. Yes. So when he bought the Crescent in 1937 for $40,000, it was a grand Victorian landmark already. But as Lisa said in the last episode, it had fallen into disrepair, and he was eager then to rejuvenate it. And then, of course, the Chamber of Commerce, the bank, the newspaper wanted him to rejuvenate the town with this new venture.
Everybody was on board.
He had everybody on board.
Yeah.
So at the Crescent, Baker painted nearly everything lavender and purple.
Oh.
And the polychrome lobby was decorated in vibrant hues, along with a caliphone on the roof.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean,
look up caliphone so we can see a picture of it.
I think my phone's over there, like to the.
Heck, I don't know where your phone is. Oh, here it is.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I want to talk about this purple.
Yeah.
So he painted the whole outside of the building purple, or
every wall, I'm assuming inside, was painted purple.
Goodness,
purple.
I'm not I know a lot of people love purple.
Yeah, they do.
I do not.
I don't. You know what my favorite color is? You don't, do you?
I really don't. Is it blue?
No, not even close.
Gold?
Well, it's yellow and orange. That's
okay.
Those are my favorite colors. I'm drawn to those colors.
That is very interesting. Mm-hmm. But your name is Amber.
That's true. Oh, that is true.
True. I do like gold, but I'm just not a purple fan, and so the thought of it being on every wall is gross.
You like black and pink, right? Those are your two
do.
favorite.
I
yeah.
do. As far as especially what I wear.
Yeah. Okay, so Baker's extensive promotional literature, like he promised the chamber, touted the hotel as a place where sick folks get well. And so it was a very simple message, but that message soon landed him in trouble with postal inspectors, and eventually that led to him being tried for mail fraud charges in 1940, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Oh, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Oh, no, that's a calliope.
Calliope.
Yeah, no, that's a calliope.
How is it spelled?
Calliaphone.
Okay.
Yes. So eventually, when Baker did get in trouble for all his misdeeds, the prosecutor said that he was trying to reap $1 million out of people, from the state, people that didn't know any better, and the jury agreed. But we'll get into all that later. So according to court documents, patients who came to Baker's hospital were promised free additional treatment if their cancer was not cured, get this, within 3 to 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Though they would still have to pay room and board and transportation.
Oh, my goodness.
So they could continue to get treatment, but they still had to pay for the rooms. Now, the hospital's medical examinations consisted merely of palpitating, pinching, and visually inspecting patients.
I'm good
It was
at that.
yeah, I was going to
Let me
say,
pinch
come
you.
here, let me pinch you. That's what they did, without any use of microscopes, which were readily available by real doctors at the time.
Real doctor.
Yes. Baker also offered guaranteed cures for less serious conditions like hemorrhoids and varicose veins, using the same ineffective injections that he used for the cancer treatments.
So he said he could cure those, or maybe?
Yes. He said he could cure all of that.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which I doubt people were traveling to him for just a hemorrhoid, but
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this
Yes.
man.
It's bad. So additionally, the locals observed that many patients were declared cured even though their conditions were visibly deteriorating, which is scary.
That is scary.
Their cured patients would often return home only to die within days of being back.
Oh my goodness.
And some even passed away on the train ride back home.
Can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
That is awful.
Yeah. Rumors circulated among Eureka Springs residents and allegations very quickly after Baker established his quote-unquote hospital. Mm-hmm. And the rumors were claims that he conducted unauthorized medical experiments on patients in the basement morgue and secretly transported deceased patients through tunnels to a local crematorium.
Ugh.
Yes. Now, while the existence of such tunnels are still unconfirmed, records do show that 44 patients died at the Baker Cancer Hospital during its 20 months of operation. So that's how long we're talking here, 20 months.
That's
and
crazy.
It is. And since these patients were already terminally ill, no autopsies were performed, and their deaths, weren't investigated.
Yeah.
Because they were dying. Yeah. And, it was just kind of like a perfect situation for a crazy person like Baker. Mm-hmm. And, what's so interesting, and, Lisa saw a couple of these a while ago. I've been looking at the death certificates of the patients, and I printed a couple here at Lisa's house, and it's just very intriguing, looking at these. So if you have Ancestry, which a lot of us do, and yeah, especially if you're like us, you have Ancestry, you can pull up all 40 of these death records and look at the causes of death and, dates of death at the Baker Hospital. And, I'm going to do a deep dive into this, hopefully before we go on Saturday. And I'm really looking forward to, just looking at this at a deeper level. I mean, probably not, probably for a future episode, but it's very interesting because it has been said by many people that he would take on the identities of some of these dead people and write their families as the dead people.
That's so sick.
Yes. Yes.
Now,
Now,
you said earlier, we called him a charlatan, but really you had said earlier off camera or off the thing that he's a psychopath.
he is, I mean, I don't call very many people psychopaths, but he fits the bill.
He does.
Yes. So he basically promised desperate sick people that he had this miracle cure that was going to make them well again.
And took their money.
And they flocked to this hospital, and they just signed away their life savings in the process. A lot of these people were over the age of 72 or 80, and you know, a lot of the times they were widowed or they didn't have children. So he picked his victims. I think he picked them for reasons.
Yeah.
But regardless of whatever ailment the people had, the treatments were always the same. 4 daily injections of one of Baker's 2 formulas, every day except Sunday. Yeah. The doctors on staff later admitted they jokingly referred to themselves as machine guns due to the rapid pace of administering so many injections.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, can you imagine?
That's no, this guy.
Yeah.
He just why couldn't he just hang out at the radio station?
Yeah. Yep. So, like I said, if the patients were not cured, they still got to stay there, but they had to pay, which was probably another way that...
Does it talk about how much was charged? Or anything? Like what he charged?
I think it doesn't. Maybe. I don't know. According to writer Delaney, I hope I'm saying her name right, Delaney Bartlett of Medium, it wasn't long before local staff at the Baker Cancer Hospital began noticing suspicious activities, like just all around, and they didn't keep it quiet. Soon after the hospital's opening, an entire wing was soundproofed, sealed off, and locked from the outside, labeled as the psychiatric ward. Patients who were not improving were sent there.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Which is like all of them, because they're either going down or dying.
Yes.
But he wanted to hide them.
Yes. It was a bad time. And, you know, a lot went on in 2 years. But also, according to Medium, Baker did spend $50,000 renovating the hotel. And like I said, he painted it a carnival-like lavender. Yes. Yes.
Like his vaudeville days.
Yes. Yeah. Oh. So, and he did spend about $1 million on advertising too.
He spent $1 million?
He spent $1 million on advertisements, which I have one of the ad. Yes. So his campaign touted, like you said, that fresh air and crystal healing water. Yes. So it was kind of the same thing as before, only he also said he could cure cancer. Yes. It was insane.
So he went back about 50 years on technology and medicine.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
So according to Channel 7 KATV, which is one of our local stations here in Central Arkansas, many of Baker's patients died while under his care, and their bodies were secretly wheeled away by nurses to the Crescent's basement, which Baker used as a secret morgue for those who perished. And that is part of the ghost tour. Yes. Actually, it is. And like I've
been down there.
Yes,
but it's been many years ago.
Yes, and KATV also says that he pretended to be his deceased patients, apparently, allegedly, and would forge letters and write to their loved ones, often asking for money.
Oh, I bet.
Yes.
Oh, what a creep.
Yes. So
not only did he kill them.
Yes.
We need more money.
Yes.
Wow.
So Baker's grandiose claims failed to earn any credibility, thank God, within the legitimate medical community. Yet his outrageous methods and theories managed to draw the attention of the AMA, which is the American Medical Association, someone that did not like him anyway. And it became a cautionary tale for the whole country of unethical cancer treatment practices. Ultimately, it was Baker's fraudulent fraudulent patient acquisition tactics that led to his undoing. And in 1940, he was arrested and imprisoned for mail fraud, effectively ending his dubious reign.
Wow.
Yes.
It's kind of like those, people that are just doing horrible stuff, and sometimes you have to get them on mail fraud.
Well, yeah.
Or tax
evasion, exactly. But after his release, Baker unsuccessfully tried to reopen his facility in Muscatine.
So go back.
Yeah, he went back.
Wow.
He then lived out his final years on a 3-story yacht once owned by railroad magnate Jay Gould. And Baker ended up dying of cirrhosis of the liver on September 8th, 1958.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, so he didn't survive. Well, still, that's 18
Yeah,
years
he lived
after
about 20 years after all that.
So,
and he's buried next to one of his sisters in Muscatine.
So what, did he ever have children?
Not that I have found.
Okay. Did he, question. So how long was he in prison for?
Oh, yeah, I have that right here.
Okay.
Yes. So according to Medium, again, the consensus is that Baker was a quack and a fraud, and his patients died without receiving any medical care. But according to the author of this Medium article, Bartlett, Baker was not just a quack and a cheat, but a serial killer. She's just labeling him a serial killer. Mm-hmm. According to Bartlett, the formulas he was injecting into his patients contained carbolic acid, also known as phenol, a powerful poison that can cause organ failure, which if you then go back to some of these death records, that computes, that vibes with what's being told. Exactly. Interestingly, the Nazis were using the same method of carbolic acid injections to do the horrible things they did in concentration camps.
But they did it later.
In
the 40s.
Yeah, they did.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So do you think they got this from him?
Who knows?
Interesting.
And, the full truth may never be known. And, when he was arrested in 1939, the charge was mail fraud. And postal inspectors, they had been watching him for a while, and they alleged that Baker had defrauded his victims out of nearly $4 million, which is the equivalent of $78 million today.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. And this was just through his newsletter. This was just the newsletter. Yes. So after a 3-week trial.
Should we get it?
No. So after a 3-week.
And this was just in 20 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he had a lifetime of deviousness. So after a 3-week trial, Baker and 2 other quote unquote doctors from his hospital were convicted and sentenced to 3 years in Leavenworth. Oh. Yes. And they were also given a $4,000 fine. Big whoop. Yes.
Compared to what they stole. And kill people,
Now, we talked about the lavender-themed interior remodel, but he also prioritized his own safety, as buttholes do. Baker installed...
Buttholes do that.
Yes. Baker installed a hidden staircase in his first-floor office suite, providing a quick escape route. Yes.
That is hilarious.
Yes. So, also, the centerpiece of Baker's office was a unique 6-sided desk, which he used to coordinate his 6 different business ventures.
Oh.
Yes.
Good.
And this was a testament to his entrepreneurial drive. Yeah. Yes. And his weirdness.
And being a psychopath.
Yes, exactly. So, as I said earlier, he was pretending to be some of these sick people, which I just find... sickening and wow. The Crescent Hotel uncovered an old letter. Yes, and the author of the letter was a man named Luther J. Baggett. And he had the letter was addressed to his family in Lakeside, Arizona. And it provided a vivid account of life at the Baker Hospital. So I'm not really sure. I guess maybe the Arizona family sent it and it wasn't found at the hotel. Sorry, I read that wrong. So yeah, the letter came from the family, I'm assuming. But the letter's unique features, such as the hospital letterhead and the use of purple-colored paper
Oh, my.
added intrigue to this historical artifact. Baggett describes the slow mail service due to the hospital's remote location and expresses his longing to hear from his loved ones. He also shares details of his daily routine, which included natural treatments like castor oil, tonics, needle treatments, and carrot juice.
Oh, my.
Sounds lovely.
Carrot juice.
Carrot juice. I don't think I've ever had carrot juice. I wonder if it's any good. Okay, so one striking aspect of Baggett's letter is his description of the hospital's holistic approach. He notes that all medicines and food were derived from vegetables, herbs, roots, and bark, and highlighted the institution's focus on natural remedies. Okay. Baggett also addressed financial concerns, mentioning the cost of his treatment and anticipating the need for additional funds for his remaining time there.
Oh, my.
Yes. So, tragically, Ancestry.com shows that Baggett passed away on February 24th, 1939. So he's part of that group, unfortunately, of people you can see on Ancestry. So if you guys want to do a deep dive on the victims of Baker, it's all right there for you to see on Ancestry. And, you know, this was shortly after the quote-unquote writing of this letter. Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. So this story, according to the Crescent Hotel's historian, adds a poignant layer to what the Baker Cancer Hospital was and did to its victims. And it serves as a valuable historical document. And wow, is all I can say. It's so sad, so sad. So to bring us full circle back to that 2019 archaeological dig that I talked about at the beginning of the episode, it was that year, 2019, archaeologists found hundreds of artifacts, including partial human remains.
Oh, my.
Yes. Now, this was according to 4029 News, and that is in northern Arkansas. They said over 400 bottles and medical jars were found, and archaeologists have connected the artifacts to the infamous Dr. Baker. They were able to do that. Apparently, in the 1960s, those bottles were just dumped behind the hotel, and nobody knew they were there.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. And so according to one of the archaeologists, we realized that a lot of the literature mentioned formulas that had colors like that. So we were able to make ties to the Norman Baker facility. Yes. And they also found some interesting tools and artifacts like a reel of film and a bone saw.
Oh.
Yes. I was saving the bone saw for last because, yes.
So, theoretically, they might have been doing their own autopsies and just not telling the family, perhaps?
Theoretically,
Oh,
yes.
terrible.
Yes. Now, Bill Ott of the Crescent Hotel was quoted as saying, "This is like the holy grail of ghost hunting." Yes. So they took that film reel and blew it up. And someone was quoted as saying, "When we blew up on this small section of the film, it just so happened that a little section had words you could still read, and it said Baker treatment."
Oh.
It was like Norman Baker leaving his business card.
Wow.
Yes. So, I mean, it's just crazy that they found this so many years later. But those little those little jars of treatment, they were multicolored, and they took samples and they tried to figure out what was in the jars. And then they found others that had human remains, tumors, things like that.
Like in the jars?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Someone was quoted as saying, "We knew all along that he had these bottles, tumors and such, that he had taken out and placed in bottles and displayed to show people." So he had taken the tumors out of people and put them in bottles and displayed them.
Wow.
And then probably they just got dumped out in the back and nobody found them. Yes. So it says that more than 500 items were unearthed during all of this.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. And many are waiting to still be analyzed from the Arkansas Crime Lab.
I bet.
So there will be future archaeological finds from this.
Wow.
Yes. And, you know, you think about it, I think the crime lab may have slowed down during the pandemic. I don't know if it did or not, but probably at least in 2020 they weren't working at the same pace. So this happened in 2019. So I'm sure we'll still be hearing about things from that find.
Yeah. if there was like 500 things
Yes,
going on.
yes. So, and one other thing that I wanted to talk about as far as Baker and all of his weirdness, he actually in 1940, or I'm sorry, November 22nd, 1939, he denied owning the hospital. Yes, this was in one of the Arkansas papers, dated November 22nd, 1939. I think this was the Democrat. I might be wrong though. It says Little Rock, Arkansas, November 22nd. Norman Baker of Eureka Springs advised the Associated Press today that while he founded the Baker Hospital at Eureka Springs, he is not the owner and does not now hold any executive position in the institution. What a goober. His statement was prompted by a reference to him as owner of the hospital in a recent Associated Press story, quoting the U.S. Attorney Sam Rorex as saying Baker and 7 associates would be brought to trial here January 8th on an indictment charging use of the mail to defraud in connection with an alleged cancer cure.
Oh my goodness.
So they got him.
Yeah. And then he just wanted to refute the fact that he owned the hospital.
Yes. So he was convicted in 1940, and this is a paper dating January 26. It says that on January 23rd, Norman Baker, 56, was convicted in federal court today, along with 2 associates on a charge of using the mails to defraud in the advertisement of a claimed cancer cure. Yes.
This guy.
Yes.
It's just so amazing to me when people can do such horrific things just for money.
For money. It was all, I don't know. He sounds like
but
he was
sounds more than
sadistic too.
I mean, he wanted to keep parts and
Ooh, yeah,
he had problems.
So the last part of my research kind of delves into the remaining 20th century.
Okay.
So according to the hotels,
because really his era ended in 1940.
Yeah, this was a very, very small, teeny weeny period of time.
It was a lot, but
it was a lot in a very small period of time. Mm-hmm. So according to the hotel's website, in 1946, the Crescent Hotel entered a transformative period as it underwent extensive renovations and changed ownership. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yes. So 4 individuals, Herbert Byfield, John R. Constantine, Dwight O. Nichols, and Herbert E. Shutter, acquired the hotel and set out to restore it to its former grandeur. Driven by a shared vision, they breathed new life into the historic place and meticulously preserved a lot of its elegant charm. The new owners forged a partnership with the Frisco Railroad, as you talked about earlier. Yes, to offer travel vacation packages, attracting a surge of tourists to Eureka Springs who were eager to experience the Crescent Hotel's charm and allure. These all-inclusive packages combined with the hotel's luxurious accommodations, really made it popular again. Mm-hmm. Yes, it became again an unforgettable scenic getaway for people.
I mean, it's
after all the crazy Baker stuff. Yes. So then in 1967, there was a devastating fire attributed to faulty wiring. I blame Baker for that too. No, I'm kidding. And it ravaged the penthouse level and a significant portion of the 4th floor of the Crescent Hotel. This destructive incident prompted...
But it was fireproof.
Yeah, apparently not. This destructive incident prompted necessary renovations and repairs. So by 1970, the hotel had transitioned again because it had so many things that had to be fixed from that fire.
I'm sure it's very expensive.
Yes. So then it went into the hands of Resort Enterprises with Dwight Nichols as the sole remaining owner. So, I mean, it kind of ebbed and flowed its popularity. Sure. And heck, this was during the time of Dog Patch. Everybody was at Dog Patch. I'm sorry, but my family was at Dog Patch during this time period.
And that will be a whole different episode.
Oh, no, we are doing an episode on Dog Patch. Yes. Definitely.
So go right now.
Hey, we may drive by it on the way next weekend. Yes.
Sounds good.
So if anyone knows the current owners, let us know. So In 1972, Crescent Heights Developments, led by a group of investors, including Dr. and Mrs. Sam H. Curry and Mr. and Mrs. Robert Fegans, acquired the hotel. Their collective goal was to revive the Crescent to its former glory while simultaneously introducing modern amenities. Yes, through a phased approach, they meticulously restored it and expanded its facilities. It was during this period of restoration that the first reports of supernatural occurrences surfaced, adding to the hotel's mystique. Yeah, it is totally our version of the Shining Hotel. Yes. We just thought the Arlington was. No, this one, yeah. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait till next weekend. Yeah. So in 1980, Riverview Management of Arkansas, Inc. became a general partner, ushering in a new era for the Crescent Hotel. In the 80s, such a good time.
Hey.
Little Lisa, little Amber were born. Yes. Under new management, the hotel witnessed several memorable events, and in 1985, the iconic Crystal Ballroom hosted a sold-out concert by the one and only Willie Nelson.
I started laughing because I knew it was coming. I'm like, oh.
While then Governor Bill Clinton delivered a keynote address at an annual chamber banquet. Then in 1988, the Wichita Federal Savings and Loan of Wichita, Kansas acquired the hotel. Yes, before selling it to Gary and Carol Clausen, who became the new proprietors.
Oh. So yes. I wonder if the bank got it back. Like, it went into foreclosure.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
That's probably what happened, or at least that's in my mind as a mortgage loan officer.
Who knows?
Anyway.
We don't know. On February 28th, 1997, Marty and Elise Ronick acquired her, the grand old lady of the Ozarks, as she was called, as the hotel was called, despite the grand old lady.
That's what my grandma name.
Grand old lady. Yeah. Despite the dilapidated state by this time, because it had gone in and out of different ownerships, whatever. So
possibly in foreclosure.
We don't know. Driven by their passion for preservation, this couple was determined to save the historic structure from total ruin, and I'm so glad they did.
Yes,
in May 2000, at a grand garden party in the hotel's fountain garden, the Ronicks publicly unveiled their ambitious 10-year restoration plan, with Mr. Ronick emphasizing the importance of the hotel's economic stability or economic sustainability for its future.
Interesting.
Yes. So they defied all expectations with what they chose to do, and they completed this process in just 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yay for them. Yes, so the restoration efforts at the Crescent were extensive, as you can imagine, and they were also meticulous with them. A significant achievement was the restoration of the 5th floor, which had been destroyed by that fire, remember, in 1967.
Yes.
The original building skyline was meticulously reconstructed, while the interior was artistically transformed into living quarters for the Ronicks.
Oh, cool.
Yes, walls.
That'd be so cool to live there.
Yes. Walls were adorned with Victorian color schemes and hand-stenciled designs, a theme echoed in the hotel's lobby. So I guess it doesn't look like vaudeville down there anymore. Yes.
Thank goodness. No,
yes. Further enhancements included historically themed furnishings, bathroom renovations, and clever room redesigns to appeal to modern guests. In 2008, 4 two-bedroom treetop cottages were added to the 15-acre mountaintop property, blending seamlessly within the Eureka Springs architecture that Lisa talked about so beautifully in episode 1. And this architectural style was actually inspired by Ife Jones, a student of Frank Lloyd Wright.
Oh,
so wowza. Yay. Exactly. So yeah. So that was a lot of research, but so interesting to me. And I have I'm not going to call him doctor, but I have Norman Baker's.
Not a doctor.
Yes, I have his. What is this?
Like his mugshot.
This is his mugshot. Yes, I was thinking that's what it was.
Put that out there. Huh?
Yes, we're going to put his mugshot out there. Yes. So he does have a mugshot after all of that. He
Such
does
a creep. He just
yes. And then I also have one of his original posters.
Ooh, cool.
Yes. Well, I mean it's
not
not original.
Cool.
It's not
cool.
yes, yes. It's a copy of one of his
I like
posters.
you called him a butthole earlier.
Yes, exactly.
As buttholes.
Yes. And then I also have a picture of him hypnotizing a group of people before. This is in his younger days, in his vaudeville days. And then I have this interesting picture of part of the tunnel system. And I want to find this when we go next week to Eureka.
I'll take you there.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, that's all I have. I can't believe all that was under an hour.
You did good because you told me how many pages you had, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, can I take a nap?
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so yeah.
It was intriguing.
So that is all for part 2. And part 3 won't come out for a week or so because we actually want to go to the Crescent and experience some of this for ourselves and then talk to you guys about what we saw. Definitely.
Sorry, I just took a drink.
You did. And I looked at you at the same time. I'm like, this won't end well.
Sorry.
Yes. So.
What if I had spit it on you?
Yeah. Well.
I mean, it's literally.
I'm still trying to get used to being right beside you. I can't.
I'm tickling her, and she literally just.
I can't zone out either when you talk because I tried to one time and you hit me last episode.
No, you were playing with something over here, and it was. I'm easily distracted. I am. I'm
going to have a fidget spinner or something.
Yes, you do need because I noticed you were like on your phone while I'm talking, and then you're over here.
Yes, exactly.
She's yeah.
I can't sit still. I just can't.
No.
Okay, so that's it. Yay. And I'm pretty proud of the research that I did. And I think there's tons more we can tell about the Crescent. And we will, but in about a week or so. So there you go. So to be continued. Stay tuned.
We will. Anyway, you're going to get the episodes. You'll know.
Yes. All right. Okay. So that's all I have.
Love ya.
Love ya. We'll see you in episode number 3 of the trilogy. Bye.
Bye.